So in my 2020 year-end video, I promised a departure from my normal of just doing videos on video games, so here we are with the first video on that kind. And it's on a board game of all things. Well, a tabletop wargame if you want to get real technical with the distinction, but before I can really get into the meat of things, I gotta build the map first, so... This is Heroscape. You might or might not be familiar with Hasbro's attempt at a war game in the vein of Warhammer 40k or Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and by golly, what an attempt it was. Heroscape saw its first release all the way back in 2004 with a master set entitled The Rise of the Valkyrie, and it captivated a young HadesManticore. The commercials for Heroscape promised epic battles waged across war-torn worlds of Valhalla, a cataclysmic conflict between the forces of good and evil, where the battles would be in your hands, and your warriors would be drafted from all across time and space. Now that concept alone kicks ass, but they also packed a ton of lore into Heroscape via the game's manuals and other materials you could get elsewhere. The short of Heroscape lore is this: the realm of Valhalla is a lush, serene world populated and ruled over by winged humanoids called the Kirai. Things were peaceful under the rule of several arch-Kirai until the discovery of the Wellsprings by the Kirai named Thorman. Thorman drank from the Wellsprings and was gifted with enhanced strength, both mental and physical, alongside greatly increasing the size of his wings, and on top of all that, granted him mystical powers as well. With the only downside being nightmarish visions of strange-looking armies doing battle across bleak, broken landscapes. Additional Wellsprings were found all across Valhalla, the Kirai drinking from them and being blessed with the same powers and problems that Thorman had. War begins to break out between factions over the Wellsprings. 5 Kirai in particular, being dubbed the Arch-Kirai, began to emerge the strongest amongst their kind. These Kirai were Jandar of Nastraland, Ular of Ikstrom, Vidar of Anund, Utgar of Kirian, and Einar of Linsfarm. In the opening stages of the war, Jandar, Ular, and Vidar form an alliance against Utgar and Einar. The Kirai begin fighting each other all across Valhalla for control of the mystical Wellsprings. Utgar, being the sneaky Pete he is, begins to summon warriors from other planets to do his fighting. In response, every other Valkyrie general begins to do the same. As the war raged, Thorman's visions of strange warriors doing battle across devastated landscapes turned out to be prophetic in nature. That blasted land was Valhalla, and those warriors were the ones summoned by the Arch-Kirai to do battle for control of the Wellsprings. Thus, the stage was set for Heroscape's first master set. Lore-wise, Einar would later switch sides after realizing Utgar was a madman that would never share power in Valhalla. These Arch-Kirai would later be joined by 2 more: Aquila of the Tikala jungle, who joins Jandar's alliance, and Valkril, a seemingly unaligned general who represents anarchy and destruction. That pretty much covers the breadth of Heroscape lore, truth be told, though it is a rather sweeping generalization. As I mentioned earlier, Heroscape is a tabletop board game, one that's most likely known for, 1, its interlocking hex terrain. You see, unlike other war games which are usually contested on fancy decorated tabletops, movement done with tape measures and moving trays, Heroscape has battlefields you construct with its hex terrain, interlocking tiles that can effortlessly be stacked on top of one another. With these, you can construct your battlefields with actually a good amount of flexibility. The hex tiles also serve to simplify movement rules and come in a variety of different types with different effects if you so wish. Like water, swamp water, lava, and ice too. Terrain can also give you advantages and disadvantages in your damage based on height. Fall damage is also a thing for fighters that have displacement abilities, and climbing higher terrains is also based on your movement stat. Another plus to the model of Heroscape is actually how simple it is to pick up and play. Here's a good comparison. This is Heroscape's rulebook. This is the rulebook for the latest edition of Warhammer 40k. Even if you slice out all the lore stuff from 40Ks, it still completely dwarfs the systems of Heroscape. Hell, you can make Heroscape systems even simpler by using the simplified stats, which are on the front of the cards versus the back, but I really have no idea why you would do that. I feel like the front card stats make the game way too simple, if that makes sense. Plus, the backside makes the game far more fun with its character abilities and full stat lines. Stat-wise, Heroscape cards are fairly simple as well. You have health, movement, range, attack, and defense, as well as their point value for draft play. On top of this, every unit, hero, or squad has special abilities to take advantage of on the battlefield, such as Sergeant Drake Alexander's Grapple, which lets him ignore height movement rules, or the Airborne Elite's Parachute Drop, which lets them drop anywhere on the battlefield. To play Heroscape, all you gotta do is draft an army based on point totals of a given game, pick your starting zones, and determine who goes first. Every player rolls a d20 to determine who goes first, moving their figures according to the markers they've set, and then you rinse and repeat every turn for the rest of the game. The other really weird rule with Heroscape's moves was you got to move 3 characters or squads a turn, and you had these 4 markers to use for that. Markers for move 1, 2, 3, and this X, which is used as a fake out to trick your foes. You can stack these all on one unit or across multiples, obviously. When it comes to your warriors, you'll have fighters from all across time and space, fantasy, modern, and science fiction ones as well, with even some drawn straight from our very own world history. What I also liked about these drafted warriors is each of the Arch-Curai generals tended to have an archetype from which they drew from. The only thing that really broke that rule was that every faction had a dragon to draft. Jandar, for instance, preferred honorable warriors, so he had stuff like his own Curai, World War II American GIs, Knights, and Vikings. I don't know how honorable the Vikings were, but hey, it was meant for younger people. Why are we gonna split hairs, you know? Utgar, on the other hand, this fucker was pure evil, intended to bring mindless or simple-minded beasts and monsters into the fray. Stuff like orcs, deathwalkers, the undead, and these skinless abominations called the Morrow. Since I described the first 2, let me do the rest of the Curai generals so it's not unfair, you know? Vidar was more of a techie general. He brought a lot of fancy warriors to Valhalla, stuff like Special Agent, really advanced monkeys, and the good guy killer robots, though he had some outliers like Doomed. Seriously, what the fuck is this thing? Ular was your hippy-dippy sorcerer general. Ular brought a lot of elves of all varieties to the fray, on top of a giant, this weird griffin thing, and a lot of vipers, too. Weirdly, Ular was the one that brought Shaolin monks to the field, though, and not our final general here. Enar, our last general, and probably my favorite in terms of the warriors he brought to the field, truth be told. Enar generally had historical warriors from Earth's past, all of them being incredibly disciplined and well-trained. Enar fielded Roman legionaries, gladiators, and Greek soldiers, too, but was mainly known for his fielding of samurai, which were an insanely strong unit. Samurai were my favorite unit since all of them had counter-strike, which is a skill that said for every excess shield you rolled versus an attacking enemy, you damaged your opponent. That's broken as hell. Enar also fielded the most disgusting and vile of monsters across all of Valhalla. The British people, ew! The models sold to you are also of pretty damn good quality, I can't lie. They're well made and well painted too. Compare it to this Warhammer mini here. Yeah, I can't paint for shit, truth be told, that's true, but Heroscape ones are super nice, even compared to a good painter for Warhammer 40k. Models were included with pretty much every set, with a ton sold in individual packs too. So if you wanted to draft an army that consisted of a ton of Ashigaru Yari, you could grab more of them if you wanted. HS packs weren't even too pricey either, with expansion sets like this being sold for $12 at the time. Masters were more expensive at $50, but you got a shit ton of terrain with them as well, on top of a manual that let you build more maps for certain conflicts. As a kid, I fell off around wave 8 or so I mournfully don't have all the figures, though someday I'd love to finish my collection. I know later collections brought stuff like dwarves, giant bugs, and Native Americans, as well as a whole bunch of Dungeons and Dragons related fighters, but I missed out on those later lines completely. And I very much regret it, because have you seen how much Tikala Jungle and Aquila's Alliance goes for these days? Jesus H. Christ. I also missed out on that Marvel Superheroes vs. Villains set too. Those guys weren't aligned with any Arch-Curai for some reason though. Honestly, the only thing Heroscape was really lacking in, at least to my thinking, is pirates. They had ninjas, just no pirates. It was an incredible collection of warriors, and you could pretty much draft any way you wanted. Unless you were a purist and wanted to say that Utgar could only draft Utgar and the Alliance can draft whoever you want, but that's no fun. Though, truth be told, warriors under a respective god tended to have synergies with other warriors from the same god, so it typically pays to be choosy. Like Marcus Decimus Gaius, a Roman centurion, had synergies with his own Roman soldiers. Parmenio also had it with his Golden Band troops, just as an example. Battle plays out pretty simple too. As long as your warrior is in range, you can engage a selected target. You roll attack dice, they roll defensive dice, you subtract the defense dice and the attack dice, and that's how many wounds your target takes. I don't know what the rule on dice is, but the original set had these red dice for attack and blue dice for defense, while later master sets carried these white dice you rolled for both. Probably to cut back on costs if I had to guess. Later master set also had these flimsy ass water tiles versus the more durable tiles of the original, which, truth be told, I broke one of the newer ones while recording this video. Yeah, get the old ones if you can. After that, basically you just play to whatever the rule on a given battle is. Typically to the death, as I like to play these games. There are glyphs you can place on the battlefield too that have special effects, as listed on the glyph of course, or they can be used as objective points to take and hold, for instance. You'll definitely want to try to build good synergy with your army to win. Or you could just draft Major Q9 and rip everyone a new asshole with his stupid Queglex gun special ability. Seriously though, Q9 is the most busted unit in this game. Look at him, you fucking peasants. Look at him and weep that you'll never be as incredible as he is. 8 range, 4 attack, 7 defense, and a special ability that grants him 9 attack dice that he can split across multiple targets on the field, or fire all on one target. Major Q9 leaves his targets as nothing more than a steaming pile of ash, all because they made the piss-poor decision to be within 6 spaces of him. There's some other strong characters in Heroscape, but Q9 takes the cake entirely. Basically, when you draft an army, you need to ask yourself, can it kill Major Q9? Or you can just ban him. Truth be told, there are still some outliers in terms of strength in Heroscape, like Return of the Valkyrie Raylan, or these little rats called Deathwalkers, but it tends to even out. There's also a lot of meme tier characters like the Deathwalker 7000, a unit that is essentially a walking suicide bomb, or the Marrow Drudge, who are just shite tier cannon fodder. But you can always try to use their respective synergies with superior units to work around those weaknesses. Heroscape managed to eke out a 6-year-long run, putting out 4 Master Tier level sets, 5 Terrain expansion sets, 13 Character expansion sets, 5 Flag Bearers, 1 for each army of course, 3 Giant Figure sets, and a handful of Gen Con exclusive miniatures before its unfortunate discontinuation in 2010. Since then, Hasbro has basically never even mentioned the property in any form whatsoever. Heroscape did get a spiritual successor though, in the form of Magic the Gathering Arena of the Planeswalkers, but it just wasn't the same. It had these boring flat tile pieces and full colored figures that just didn't match the quality of the sculpts that the original Heroscape had, which Heroscape being gone basically is really sad, truth be told. I think Heroscape is a super fun game and an excellent introduction to the field of wargaming. I'd say try to get your hands on a copy, but well, Heroscape is obviously very much out of print these days, with some later run sets going for absurd prices like I mentioned earlier. Thankfully, there are some alternatives out there. If you have a copy of Tabletop Simulator, for instance, Heroscape can be played freely on it. There's also the Heroscapers community, which has a Heroscape online app, and a fairly active community too. One that's even been creating their own custom units for use in Heroscape competitive play. Shit, they're on wave 23 and the last canon set was wave 13. That's some damn dedication there. I decided my first non-video game video would be on Heroscape, since a long time ago, Hasbro mentioned they'd be trying to break more into the esports scene with their games, and I got myself overly excited at the prospect of a Heroscape return. It'd make a great competitive game after all. Hell, it's not like you can manage it any worse than Games Workshop does Warhammer. At that time though, I also conveniently forgot that Hasbro owned Magic the Gathering, and felt really fucking stupid after I realized that truth, but hey, a man can dream, right? Hopefully someday we'll see a revival of Heroscape. I mean, they brought back Mighty Beans for a stint, why not Heroscape too? So on this wistful trip down memory lane, I think I can end this video. As always, I'm HadesManticore. This is City State Manticore. Thanks a ton for watching a random video on a war game that's been on a print since 2010. Leave a like and a comment if you're feeling froggy, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Goodbye.